Welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined in studio with Jordan Kidis. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. And we have a very special guest today as well.
Thanks for having me, Jordan and Zara.
No worries.
Nice to be here.
So Paul, give our guests a bit of a rundown, high level. What do you guys do at Amplio?
So at Amplio, we support growing businesses with their back of house needs. So we support recruitment, onboarding of new staff, running your operations, utilising systems, and effectively managing your business as you grow so that you don't lose control of that growth, and also to make sure that the business owner doesn't end up wearing every hat in their own business.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's something we speak about quite a lot. Yeah. But I think where you come in and the stuff that you guys do, it's really unspoken about. Because we've got a few mutual clients and they scale and they grow, they invest in their marketing, sales, and then it's the back end stuff when you get to like 6 or 7 people, the little things like that, not little things, but things like HR and systems and processes that really start to get tested. So given that I've worked with you before and again, mutual clients, it's we'll dive a bit deeper in the ins and outs of what you do, but I think it's a service that heaps of businesses can definitely benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe before we do kind of dive into Amplio specifically, give us a little bit of a rundown of like who you are. What's your background?
Yeah, so I originally started at university. I did a management and human resources degree. Mm-hmm. After starting in accounting, did a little switch.
Made the right call.
Yeah, it's going okay so far, but we'll see. From there, I went into the facilities maintenance industry. So we were managing multiple contractors in growing businesses. Over time, we won a lot of council contracts, so I got a chance to do some contract management. Obviously, very high levels of compliance required in those council contracts. So I started to evolve into more of the IMS management, which is essentially your health, safety, quality management across the business, making sure that contractors are inducted, making sure that what we say we're going to do on site happens. As I went through the career, I got a chance to do some general management with some businesses that were doing some acquisitions as well. And then after that, I actually did a switch of industries into the business advisory industry with an accounting firm who had offices in Melbourne and Adelaide. So got a chance to help those businesses, particularly during the lockdown period where more and more people were moving to work from home. So we were helping them to get set up from home, making sure that the systems were in place. I know it probably kept you busy as well, Jordan, during that period of time as well. It was a big change for businesses. So I had a really great opportunity to work with a lot of growing businesses in that industry. And then as I was doing that, obviously saw more and more about the need to not only identify what needed to change in those businesses, but actually just get in there and help them do it sometimes too. Yeah. Keep it on track. You can tell someone what the problem is, but usually it's the business owner trying to get in there and make that happen. So I identified that as an opportunity to go out on my own after experiencing that, and had a lot of encouragement from some of those businesses that I'd worked with and some of my mentors in those businesses as well, encouraging me to get out and start that business. And that's sort of how it all evolved to where I'm at now with running Amplio.
Good stuff. It's funny, we just did an episode on managing teams, and it probably would have been good to have Paul sitting on that.
Yeah.
Remote teams more specifically. So
yes,
we can maybe add that to the list.
Yeah.
How do you, what's your stance on the remote working?
Look, I think that with remote work, it's a change that's happened, particularly during the lockdown periods in Australia.
Yep.
It's just something that businesses had to adapt with, and now it's the norm. I don't think I meet any businesses that don't have some type of element of offshore or work from home now, and I think that it actually helps you retain talent as well. People have kids, people have different responsibilities, and you don't want to miss out on having talent just because they can't be in your office. And you also want to make sure that you've got access to a global workforce as well. Sometimes you can't get the talent that you need in the location that you are. Just because they're not within an hour of your office doesn't mean you want to miss out on those people. So I just think it's the norm now. I think it can be a competitive advantage for your business. And if you manage it well, there's not a whole lot of difference between being on-site versus remote. Granted, there are some roles, though, that have client-facing elements, and you do need a mix sometimes. And I think there's there's a lot to say about having the culture of being able to meet in person and build those relationships. But I just think it's part of the game now to have that in your business.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about Amplio. What is it? What do you guys do?
So Amplio, essentially we do management consulting and we also do operational outsourcing.
Cool.
So from the consulting perspective, we support businesses with strategy and game plans, not particularly about the financial side, but more about how we action things. So let's say the strategy of the business is we need to hire 5 employees. We will help to actually put a game plan in place of where are we going to advertise, how are we going to do the interviews. So that's our first focus on the how with those operational strategies. Part 2 of that is actually working on behalf of the businesses as an extension of their team. So we would do shared management. So if someone wants a HR manager, but they only need them a couple of hours a week, we offer shared services for those type of roles, shared recruitment, shared operational management, so doing gap reports on systems. And so at a headline level, Amplio is really a business process outsourcing firm.
Yep. And so I guess it's like, it's really partnering with businesses. It's not just offering a service and then being like, good luck with that service. It's not hiring someone and then like saying good luck with that hire. It's like really kind of cohesive partnerships.
That's right. We view ourselves as almost a part-time employee of these businesses. So all businesses need to have in their org chart their financial management, their marketing management, their people management, their administration management. And when these businesses are not at a scale to be able to do a permanent hire, we come in and we can offer those support services.
Yeah, for sure. Why do you think scaling can get messy sometimes?
Scaling getting messy is really when you lose control of who's responsible for what. So if you're a business owner, you've grown your business, you know every part of your business, you know what needs to be done at what times, you jump in, you have conversations when you need to, you provide reports when you need to. As you grow and you bring other people on board, if you don't set them up to know what those responsibilities are and when they need to happen, they don't happen, and you are also committing costs to those new people that you've brought into the business. So a lot of business owners that I see, as they scale, they do commit costs to more team members, but those team members actually don't provide a lot of help because they're not set up to help. The business owner ends up continuing to do those tasks, get stretched, can't do those tasks. The people that they try and find and bring in are wasted. They don't want to be at those businesses for long term. They can't grow. And so you get more and more costs committed into the business as they scale. The business owner gets more and more stretched as the business grows, and you just don't get the results. And it often keeps businesses small because of those challenges.
And how do you step in and fix that?
So what we look to do is provide that framework for those businesses to enable them to scale by putting plans in place to get the best out of their people. Or alternatively, we help to provide those people that they need so that we can take some of those recurring tasks that need to happen away from the business owner, give them the confidence with reporting and updates that I have an external management team that is overseeing these tasks to make sure that they're happening so that they can continue to grow their business, and they have the confidence and they see the key numbers and key reporting that things are moving now.
Obviously, you've been doing this for a little while and you've worked with lots of different types of businesses. What are some common like systems or structure that you see are really critical for scaling? Even in those like super early days, what do you see as the critical pieces there?
Good people in your business is key.
Yep.
And to get the best out of good people, you have to have a framework there for them. So what we see as a big focus area is to enable someone to be part of that performance, to know how does your team member know that they're doing a good job, for example. What are they doing on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly basis? What are their responsibilities? How are they getting judged? What are we evaluating them against for them to know that they're doing well? And also longer term, if they're going to be with your business for 1 to 3 years, 5 years plus, what's that going to look like for them? Where can they get to if they work hard? So we often see the first thing that we want to do when someone's brought some new people into their business is to say, let's put some structure there so they know this is what we're evaluating you on. These are the regular reports. This is how we're going to judge your KPIs. And then let them know there will be a chance for them to touch base, provide input, share their feedback, give them feedback on their development as well. And without that, you can find that you bring a few people into your business and next minute no one knows what they're doing.
And do you help businesses develop those KPIs as well?
We do. So we will go from the perspective of the organisation chart, who's responsible for which areas. We'll then develop those position descriptions for each individual. That will include responsibilities and KPIs. We'll then link that to the systems that are in place. And that, when we're talking about a system, that may be as simple as providing an email once a week.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but what they need to do regularly so that we can evaluate, we help to structure all of that and systemize that as well.
Yeah, well, I feel like there's so many businesses that I know that would...
Putting my hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say that would totally benefit from something like that. Because I think the hardest part is obviously staffing is, which we've spoken about and we just finished an episode on. Staffing is one of the hardest components of running a business, and developing those KPIs can be really challenging. It's quite easy to put together a job description because as a business owner you go, okay, well, this is the gap that needs filling. But then to develop those KPIs and progression pathways for people can be really tough.
Definitely.
Grayspace, I feel like there's like 10 different businesses that I'm working with currently that I'm like, wow, you'd really benefit from this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is that similar to what you were doing at that previous agency? Or was it a little bit different?
Yeah, similar. Yeah. So we kind of I worked with the leaders of each team to kind of understand kind of what the key job descriptions were. I worked with the HR team to develop those job descriptions. And from there, it was like understanding, okay, what's required for a person in a junior role, a mid-tier role and a senior role. And then what are the gaps in the job that they would be doing and how is that skill then developed? So then it was also just understanding what resources were required either by the organisation or by the team member or whoever it was to help fill that gap.
Yep.
And so whether it was like, if you wanted to progress from a senior into a leadership role, then we had like a 6-month leadership training program, and it was like understanding what each of the tasks or concepts were in that leadership program and how they helped them do that leadership role. That was tough, but it was like, it was really enjoyable to come up with. It ended up winning like an international award for like innovation in team development because there weren't many marketing agencies that had a 6-month kind of training program for their staff.
Yeah, wow. And I just feel like, I know that's a big business. It just feels like you unlock that for those small to medium-sized businesses.
I think that's the key, because what you're talking about there is the gold standard of ensuring that your talent, just like a football team, right? Yeah. You're bringing talent in, they know what they need to do. You're giving them a framework to evaluate against. To have that gold standard, a lot of people would say, a large organisation would have a framework like that. But small businesses that are growing need to compete with these large organisations.
Absolutely.
You're in the same arena.
Such a good point.
So a lot of business owners, as they're growing, know that they want to do those things and want to give that to their team members. But that's a big project to put together. If you're already doing 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, you're looking to grow, you're bringing new people on, you're meeting with new clients, you're pushing to sit down, put that framework together, learn about what best practice looks like, learn about how to put the gold standard into your own business. It takes time. A quarter goes by very quickly in small business. 6 months goes by, I think, even quicker somehow than a quarter. Where we're talking about putting those frameworks in place, what we aim to do is we provide that support, like, as if you're already a large business, where you can go, well, I have a HR team, I have a performance team that can help me map this out. You probably already know the answers for what you want to do, but to get it on the page, get it distributed to your team, get it systemized, have the meetings with your team members, encourage them to keep growing and to identify that. It takes time, and we really help to push that, and we also make sure that it is going to be best practice as well.
What would be the average size, like people-wise, of businesses that you work with?
We're usually between sort of 5 and 25 is probably about the sweet spot. Now, we do work with some other companies that are bigger than that. We also work with companies that have access to outsourced team members and also extensive contractor networks. So by extension, they need to manage their contractors in the same way that they would manage their own team members, providing that context there. So some of those businesses maybe have a smaller direct employed team, but a larger contractor network. 10 to 25 is where our sort of medium range fits. But we help businesses that are growing with 2 or 3 employees get to 10, 15 employees and not have it completely wreck their business.
Yeah. Do you find that if you can implement all of these systems and processes that you guys do at that 2 to 3 level, it becomes a lot easier to scale to 10 to 20 and then to 30?
Definitely. If you don't implement these processes and frameworks early in your business, if you think that when you have 10, 15 people, that it's going to be easier to undo the current standard way you do things, re-implement new systems, retrain people. It's very difficult. The bigger it gets, the harder it is to turn. You can definitely still do it, and there's never a wrong time to get back on the right track. Yeah. And oftentimes businesses, you don't want to have invested a lot of time into a bad process and then just double down on that bad process. Yeah. So any time to get into best practice is the right time. But yeah, definitely it's a lot easier if you set the framework early. And it's actually the work that we did with you, Jordan, and Grayspace early in our Amplio journey, probably maybe 3 to 6 months into our Amplio establishment, we reached out to your team through the business podcast to make sure that we had the best practice for onboarding new clients. And we put together systems early, and we're still using those same systems now because we invested early. Now, at the time, we probably spent a lot more money than we needed to get that framework in place, but there's been no regrets since we did that.
I want to dive into a real life example, and I know we've got a mutual client. Let's say they're an electrician.
Yes.
Close enough. They're an electrician and they have 10 staff. Walk us through what it looks like start to finish, from like helping with recruitment, the system setup, HR support, compliance, which you mentioned as well. Let's map that out, what that looks like.
Yeah. So if we're engaging with a new client, our electrician client that we share, we firstly would say, okay, the people that you have in your business already, are they set up correctly? Do we have contracts in place? Do we have position descriptions in place? Do we have records of all of their documentation? You'd be shocked how many businesses you work with where they've hired a friend, they've hired someone in their network, they never actually signed the paperwork. Yeah. They haven't distributed what they need to for compliance. So we go through, make sure we tick the boxes there. We would encourage them as well to reach out to their advisors in regards to insurance and make sure that everything is up to date. Now, with our shared clients, a lot of the time that part is usually a tick box, which is great. But some of our clients that are a little bit newer, these little gaps that they just haven't thought about. With their vehicles, if they've purchased vehicles, do they have the correct insurance? If tools get stolen from the vehicles, are they covered? So just doing the basics there. From there, again, what we're talking about with putting frameworks in place, a new person coming in, how do they learn how we want them to do their roles? So onboarding information. What is our company about? What is our electrical business trying to do? Who are our core clients? What does it mean to be an employee? So we want to teach those cultural expectations. We want to allow our team members to know what our goals are and where we're going to get to. From there, with that onboarding, it's training, development, making sure that our team members have the right competencies. So putting together training plans, making sure that we're identifying what does each technician that is going to go on site, do they have all of those tick boxes for what they need? And then making sure that we record it as well. The amount of times when we do a deep dive into documentation or training and someone said they did a training but there's no record of it. So these sort of logging these competencies would be that next stage. Then from there, it's making sure that we're doing these regular meetings, we're doing these regular touch points to make sure everything stays on track. In regards to an electrical type business, making sure that toolboxes are happening, making sure that we're recording those toolboxes. our business owners have an obligation to look after their staff from an OHS perspective. So making sure that we're doing regular touch bases, making sure that our staff have a chance to actually share their concerns if there are concerns about health and safety or ideas for training. So we'll put together meetings like toolbox talks, book those in regularly. We'll put administration meetings in place to make sure we're not finding gaps on works, because at the end of the day, if someone has a concern on the quality of works, you need to make sure that you have records of the pre-start safety paperwork, make sure that you've got records of photos of the job, make sure that you've got records of any communication. A lot of times our businesses, particularly our tradie clients, a client will try and get an adjustment on an invoice and claim that they were told something. They would get, they claim things. So making sure everything's documented. So these are the sort of steps that we go to at a granular level to make sure that we're doing these gap reports, we're doing these regular meetings to keep on track. But that's where I would start with a business like that.
Cool. And is that your niche, or do you work with accounting firms, marketing firms? Like, is it just like anyone can use your services?
Anyone can use our services, and we have clients across different industries. We have accounting clients, we have manufacturing clients, we have facilities maintenance clients, and building maintenance type clients. We can really help anyone looking to put a framework in place for their operations team.
Yeah,
we can definitely help there.
Yeah, cool. Let's use an example of an accounting firm.
Yes.
How would you come in and set things up and make sure everything's humming nicely? Yeah. Not for my own personal gain, of course.
There's been a couple of those questions the last couple of days.
Oops.
Yeah, you're trying to get a free consultation session here.
Free disco call.
Yeah. Look, the first thing I would say is, depending on the size of that accounting firm, but again, you're only as good as your people that you have in the business. So first I want to find out what is the mix of people that you have. Usually businesses will have a mixture of internal staff and also outsourced team members. Treating all of those people in the same way to make sure that we've got a motivated team and we've got a team that knows what they're doing and knows where their career is going to head as well. If everyone's motivated, everyone knows what they're doing, then we're going to get much better results. So that would be the first thing I'd want to deep dive in and find out what that looks like. And it's quite telling if I was to ask you, is every person in your team, including your outsourced team members, are they at a 10 out of 10 for happiness in your business? It's very hard to answer 10 out of 10 usually. So there's always something that we can do to get people motivated or to make it a better place to be. So I'd start there. From there, with an accounting firm, what are the regular processes? What are our regular systems that we're using? Are those processes documented? Have people got clear training on those? Is our quality good? Are we making mistakes? Are we doing a lot of rework? Are we falling behind on our tasks? So we want to dig in and find out what are those key metrics that we're looking for, particularly for our accounting clients, the turnaround time on completing tasks, making sure that we hit our deadlines on our compliance in that industry as well. Our businesses can get fined if we don't submit things on time. It can cause surprise bills as well, those types of things. So how are we tracking all of those tasks? How are we making sure that we're hitting our deadlines? Who's responsible for those tasks as well? Obviously, Jordan, you're running an accounting firm. If you don't have people managing these different areas, it's going to be all on you, and that's hard to find time for that.
Yep.
So that's where
in bed at night. That's where it's ticking, looking at the roof. Is it getting done?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than you don't have a clear task list and you don't have a clear report that you can check, and then you're thinking late at night, did we send that? Have I accounted for all my tasks? When I left work tonight, I felt like all of my tasks that I need to do were done. But if you don't have that somewhere where you can actually look at it, you'll be thinking about it at 11 o'clock at night when you're trying to get to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some of the, I guess, key tools that you use in your business? Yeah.
So I would say across all of our businesses, there's probably 50, 60, 70 different applications that we're using across the board. It's part of the fun of working with multiple businesses and helping them with their operations that we use a range of different systems, particularly with our tradie businesses that we work with. There's so many different options. There's a lot of great ones out there that we use, but from a core management perspective of a business, you need a good accounting system, a good accounting platform, a good payroll system. So we strongly advocate for Xero. I think Xero is a great platform that also links in with a lot of different platforms as well to get the best out of it. We connect Xero with a lot of different operational platforms for tradies, such as ServiceMate, Arrowflow, the few different ones like that we use. From the HR and people side, we strongly advocate for a platform called Employment Hero, which allows you to send all of your employment contracts, policies, procedures, all through the one system, manage performance through those systems as well, give full visibility to your team members on what that looks like too. And it almost encourages you to populate that system, because once you invite your staff in and they're looking at their profiles, you don't want that to be blank. So we strongly advocate for that system. And then we use a range of different task management platforms. An easy one that we find everyone picks up very quick is monday.com.
Yeah.
It's just a great way to just list your daily tasks. It's not nothing too fancy. We don't really advocate for creating something that's too customized. It's a great way to track tasks, share task lists with your different people, update whether it's in progress, pending, completed. Keep it basic. If you need to go any more complicated than that, we usually encourage our team to find a specialist platform for their specific business. So with our accounting clients, things like Carbon and Xero Practice Manager. For our tradie companies, like I said, there's some great ones like Arrowflow, Simpro, ServiceMate. There's Procore and Hammertech. There's a lot of different ones. We've been recently encouraging people to use BuildPass as well in that building construction industry. They're doing some really great things with inductions. But yeah, there's so many options. And again, it comes back to that identifying in those meetings and management meetings, what are we trying to do here? What are we trying to track? What are we looking at? That will help determine which applications are the best to use.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess it's like really zooming out and asking those bigger picture questions before going, I heard about this program on this podcast that I listened to. Let's start and use that straight away.
Yeah. There's no one application that does everything. Yep. We've worked with so many businesses, and I think Jordan and yourself would probably attest to this, that across the board, no one industry has found one platform that can do it all, from accounting all the way through to people management through to client services. I don't think there's any magic application. If someone invents that, I'll be doubling down on my investment in that one. I just don't think that one exists yet. So yeah, creating your tech stack from the point of new clients, managing existing clients, bringing people on into your business, managing your tasks. You just need to have a nice tech stack. It's usually 5 to 10 applications, core applications, and then make sure that you document every step of those programs so that when you do hand them over as a business owner or a senior manager to your staff, that they know exactly how to do it, because there is nothing worse than running a half-yearly report and there's gaps everywhere, and we find that a lot. When we come in, that's the first thing we do, creating these regular weekly, fortnightly gap reports to make sure that when we need these management insights that we haven't missed out on filling that data in.
Yeah, for sure. What can small businesses learn from these big corporates?
I think that the biggest difference between a small business and a large corporation is that a large corporation has every part of their business is split into divisions, and there's always someone responsible for those areas of the business. Now, if that business has 1,000 employees, there's obviously bigger teams, more layers within those teams. But if you break it down and visualize it as an organization chart, a large business has people responsible for customer relationships, accounts and finance, human resources, recruitment, marketing, administration management, IT management. Every area of that business that's required to run that business is covered and has responsibilities for it. When you create a small business, all of those roles in the org chart start as the business owner. And you split your 50 hours a week across each of those, and you're unofficially the manager in each box on that org chart. And as you grow, you attempt to hand those areas over to someone new. And oftentimes, because you've been playing all of those roles, you don't have the time to actually map those roles out. So it just falls over. So that's the biggest difference we see between a small business and a large business. the quicker you can fill that organization chart with people, the sooner you can focus on managing and growing your business rather than doing every role in your business. I think that's the key.
What again, we spoke about this yesterday. What meeting cadence do you suggest that small businesses follow?
Yeah, so I think that a monthly management meeting is just a must. As a broad, high level, making sure that you're reviewing all the key items. I think you've got to have something in place, because as we talked about earlier, the time goes so quickly that you can realise that you actually haven't looked into your business or asked people how the business is going for a few months. So I think we call them a management meeting. Some people call them a strategy meeting, but essentially a meeting to go through all the key areas of your business, just at least monthly to run through. When we drill in a little bit closer than that, to get accurate reporting as a manager, you need to make sure that your administration is really strong. So regularly touching base with your administration team, even if that's as simple as you've just got a couple of tradies on the ground, they essentially become your administration team because they're the ones entering the client data into your system. So you need to make sure that you're reviewing that data, touching base with those key people. So we like to call that an administration meeting, and that usually has a gap report that goes with it, but making sure, are we making errors in the system? Is anything difficult to get into the system? Have we got steps that are just not required? So that's probably the next major one. And then having your performance meetings with your team. You've got to give your team members a chance to evaluate their performance with you. And part of that is also receiving feedback about your management performance for them as well. Are you doing what you need to do? So businesses can do that quarterly, half yearly, annually. Doesn't really matter. I think any of those cadences can work, as long as your employees know I will have a chance to really deep dive in and have some time to just share my feedback, know where I'm standing. That has to be a must.
Yep. Yeah, I fully agree with you. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. It's something that it's sort of unspoken about, where like the meeting cadences and having structure and processes in place for that back end. I think it's just so important. And you're right. Otherwise, us being the business owners, we're just doing everything. One of the books that we talk about quite a bit is Traction by Gino Wickman, and he has something similar to an organizational chart, but he calls it the accountability chart. And I think at the start, that's fantastic because, let's say it's the three of us and we run a business together and there's 4 silos or 5 silos, whatever there is. Yes, we can share those roles, but you're right. As soon as you can go out there and bring someone in to champion that role or that responsibility, it just makes a world of difference. But to double down on what Paul said, the fact that if you bring this person in, there's no systems, there's no processes. Well, it's, what are the expectations? It's all in our heads as the business owner, but we need to be able to get that on a piece of paper or some type of process or a meeting, whatever it may be, so we can scale.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is the thing. If I get you to join my business in a role and you come in, you show up for your first day and you say, okay, what am I doing today? And I say, just have a look around, see what you can find and start doing work. You're going to spend the first couple of months just trying to learn what we actually do here. You're not really going to be contributing for a long time, if ever, to be honest. And you're going to find projects and you're going to find ad hoc things that just don't form part of the overall game plan. Yeah. And it's honestly not fair for the people you bring into your business to not have structure for them, because they're not going to be able to achieve what they need to. And you'll be evaluating them on a framework that's in your own head that they have no idea about.
Yeah, it's so true.
Absolutely. And I think it's like that can result in so much like misalignment as well, like misalignment of values, misalignment of culture. We've spoken a lot about that in the last couple of days. Yeah. And if you come on board and you don't really know what you're getting yourself into other than what your job description is, then, that amplified over 3 to 6, 12 months.
Yeah, 100%. And you think if you receive a position description and it says run a regular gap report to make sure there's no missing data, which systems are we talking about here?
What are we talking about?
Yeah. Okay. What part of that is Xero? How do I actually run that report? Have you learnt which reports to do? Someone might go into Xero and run a bunch of different reports that are different. You know,
yeah,
you
what
can
are the metrics
customize
we're reporting on here?
Yeah, so it's just, you've got to create that clarity for people. Otherwise, they spend all their time trying to figure out what you're asking for instead of actually just executing the task.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm keen to dive into, I know that you mentioned a little bit earlier that you have worked with Grayspace initially, and Jordan and the team going through like processes and in those initial like early days of setting everything up.
Yeah, that's right.
What was happening at Amplio when you guys started working together?
Yeah, so we were very early in our Amplio journey when I originally reached out to Jordan. I'd listened to the podcast for quite a while, and obviously as starting my own business, I wanted to make sure that I was doing it the right way. And when I did my own org chart and I envisioned how I'd grow that business, I knew that I could wear multiple hats to start with in the areas that I was strongest in. But it was very clear to me that bringing new clients in, marketing, helping that customer journey when a new customer came on board to know what our services are, explaining those services, that was an area I just could not cover myself as a business owner. It wasn't my area of expertise. And it also was just something I wasn't going to have time to do well, to do best standards. So I reached out to Jordan. I knew that he, through the podcast and through the Grayspace business, that he'd spent a lot of time honing that in with his support network as well to make that a seamless transition. I was Grayspace was my accountant as well, so I'd seen that onboarding process as well. So when I first met Grayspace, I got them to help with the accounting, and part 2 of that was then getting help with the onboarding of new clients. So I'd experienced it from that end, and I'd learned about that through some of the podcasts. And I said, this is an area I have to outsource. I'm not going to get anywhere close, and it's going to take me a long time. So we went through some strategy sessions, and essentially Jordan played the role of the client, and I attempted to explain our services a million times. I still don't quite nail it. I change it every time I speak to new people, but it really helped to hone in on how we're helping, and not necessarily the details of how, but what are the goals here that we can do for these businesses. And then once you sign up, what does that look like? Because again, it's like a new employee. If you sign a new client up and there's no framework there, they sign up, they go, yeah, excited, what do we do next? And there's no framework. They don't know what to expect. They don't know where we're heading. They don't know about your business. It's a very similar concept. So yeah, I would say by doing that task and practicing what we preach with building our org chart with external support, we probably fast-tracked our business 12 to 18 months with client onboarding. And I'm still not convinced we would have got there without external support for that client onboarding as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Hey, well done, mate.
Thumbs up. Yeah, that was. I remember when we first jumped on those calls and started going through everything and refining the service offering, pricing, processes, all of that stuff. But I think the main thing was just the messaging. Like, you know, what do you guys do and how can you help? And now that we're on the podcast now and we're talking about it, it's just so clear how there's a spot in every business for this type of stuff that you do and your business, how it can just bolt into that back end and really start turning the machine. Yeah. So make sure it's all nice and seamless.
Definitely. And it's so common for people to have an external accountant.
Yes.
So common to have an external IT. When I started to think about, do I have external support for client onboarding? It's not very common to think about it in that way. And then, thinking about having external support to manage your people and manage your processes, it's not common, but I think that, for businesses that are growing and building that org chart, it will become the norm over time. And it's something that, we're working hard to push that with our business network.
I agree. It's just, again, in that space where it's 5 to 25 or 50 staff, whatever it is, having that support there and to be able to use your team for those things, like you said, the JDs, the job descriptions, meetings, all of that what would traditionally be a HR team, you can just pay the fee and you've got access to a full team of HR professionals and operational professionals.
And on that safety side too, the OHS obligations for a business owner, there's legislation there obviously that makes it a requirement, but every business owner I speak to wants to make sure that their team goes home safe every day. if you're a busy business owner and you don't have time to put these processes in place, your team are operating for months on end without these frameworks in place. You're just leaving yourself open to things going wrong, and you're leaving yourself open to being liable or being negligent on some serious stuff like OHS, which you just can't do that. And I haven't met anyone who wants to save cost on that or wants to save time to not do that properly. It just happens. It just happens where it gets missed, it gets neglected because people get busy. So having someone externally that can come in and support you with getting those frameworks up and running as well, and also keeping you accountable, having someone going into your systems and checking if there's before and after photos, checking if there's a take 5, checking if there's a swims, it naturally gets your entire team considering how important it is, and it keeps everyone accountable. So these are those sort of services that traditionally people wouldn't think to outsource that support, but I think it's definitely becoming more of a norm across the industry.
For sure. It's interesting where you say like uploading photos, and you may, someone hearing that would be like, well, what's the point of having that as a process, or what's the point of me monitoring that? If you have 10 staff, and of those 10 staff, they do 100 jobs a week, and 2 of them aren't uploading photos, that's 20% of the jobs that you're doing. If you get 10% of those jobs that are having complaints, well, that's affecting your revenue. It's affecting your Google reviews. It's affecting, could be affecting staff retention, quality of work. Like it sounds like
so much that you put in place.
That's right. And we're just talking about uploading photos on the job, uploading notes on the job. It's something that you wouldn't think is a big thing, but it's so important for so many different areas of that business.
That's right. Even putting the time that you attended site.
Yeah.
Things like that when questions come up, or if you're a manager and you're trying to evaluate where you're putting your time and your cost, and not everyone commits to putting in their timesheets, those reports are effectively, you just can't use them.
Yeah, they're useless.
They're useless. And if the data in is no good, then the data out's going to be no good either. And you end up having just a bunch of reports that you spent all this money to get management insights on that are useless.
And then you end up making business decisions that you think are based on data.
Yes.
And they're actually not.
Yeah, you're just guessing. And the amount of times when your data is good that you run a report and it shocks you that it was different to what you predicted. We would not capture data and do reports if we always knew what the answer was going to be. So you are really riding blind without any of that data. You've got to keep that going. And it's honestly as simple as people get busy, they miss a day or two, life goes on, you run your quarterly report, it's a mess. If you just ran that weekly check and prompted people and notified people, or you had someone helping you like ourselves to keep that regular cadence going, then it saves so much headache.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are some of the signs that you think, or common signs when businesses are ready for that external support, like you guys, like your team? What are some of those signs that they could recognize maybe within themselves?
I would usually say the business owner or the senior manager is working big hours. That's usually the biggest red flag to me. If you're working crazy hours, working weekends, stressing at night, not sleeping well, it's a sign to me that you're having to oversee too much within your business. Yeah, there's people managing billion-dollar companies, with thousands and thousands of staff members that have people in place to make sure that they can manage their core items. So as you're growing and taking on too much, you start to do these big hours, things start to get missed, you miss opportunities. That's the biggest red flag to me. The business owner is stressed, or the manager is stressed, they're tired, they're sort of they're upset because they know they're missing opportunities and they're not doing things to the standards that they used to do. That's the biggest red flag, that they need help. Whether that's going externally or whether that's making a direct hire within their business, it's a sign something they need support. You can't run a business if you're doing those type of hours and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see business owners make when they're wanting to scale?
The first mistake is not putting systems in place. As a solo person, you can manage on a piece of paper what you're working on, right? If it's in your diary and you list 20 tasks and you tick them off, you can manage it like that. Add 2 or 3 people there. They manage it slightly different ways. Some people will send in themselves emails. You're still writing down things on your piece of paper. that's where it doesn't work. So you need to have some systems in place with the basics of what are we doing, who's doing them, who's responsible for them. That's just, it has to be in place.
Yeah.
What would be some quick wins that some of our listeners could implement straight away to start systemizing things?
I think the first one is some type of task management list or platform, something that you can share with your team so that from a headline level, you can see what everyone on your team is working on. That is a quick win. There's a lot of free apps out there that you can jump on. They'll obviously charge you as you get more and more users and you use more and more functions, but it's usually pretty good value. So I would say that's the quickest win, is one shared task list so we know what we're all working on. The next part of that is locked in meetings. Just your locked in regular cadence meetings with it can be a very rough meeting agenda. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, but having a shared task list and meetings holds people accountable to what needs to happen and make sure that you're regularly reviewing how your business is going. Those are just two very easy things. You don't need external people for that. You can put that in place, but to do it really well and to do it best practice, it does help having support networks or hiring someone who knows how to do that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. If there was one thing that you could say, I wish more business owners knew X, what would it be?
That's a very good question. I should have prepared for that one. If there's one thing, I think that it's your people are going to drive the outcomes of your business. And if you bring people in and you don't have any framework for them and they don't know what success looks like, how can you expect a good result? And I give an example that I hear a lot with businesses is that they hire a virtual assistant overseas. It saves them some money, and they just send these ad hoc tasks to this VA, and they utilize them sometimes they don't. Sometimes they meet with them, sometimes they don't. How can you expect a person how can you expect to get the best out of that person if there's no guidelines for them? When we're talking about whether it's a direct employed, whether it's a management level, or whether it's an administration level, or whether it's a tradie on the ground, you've got to give them what their goals are. What are we asking them to do here? And then give them the confidence that if they can do that stuff, they're going to get rewarded well. So these are things that oftentimes you're just throwing people in to help, and they're not going to stay. They're not going to get a good result.
For sure, it's interesting. I think we're going to have a chat after this podcast. Paul's going to fix a lot of my problems. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. And speaking from experience, it's like you just don't have the time. Like what we've spoken about, me and you have spoken about it multiple times on the phone, but it's about having the time. And again, I'm not saying everyone's going to be able to do it, but I think having a professional and someone who's done that multiple times, seen how different businesses work at different sizes and at different stages, I think it's so important to invest in that side of the business, because it's operations, right? If you can improve efficiencies overall by 2-3%, if you're doing $1 million, and that's going to translate into revenue.
It makes such a difference. And you think if you're splitting your time as a business owner 90% operational and 10% generating new work,
yep.
If you can swap that to 70-30 to 60-40, 50-50, you'll bring opportunities back into your business. And that's how you probably grew your business in the first place, by meeting with new clients and doing business development. Then you get sucked into the day-to-day, your growth stops. So these are the areas that, time goes by so quickly. Most people already know the answer, but finding the time to execute that, it's so hard without support.
Yeah, I feel like there's been so much that we've spoken about today that's so many business owners can benefit from.
Yeah, for sure.
In terms of, building structure, leveraging external support, don't burn out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to, but don't burn out before you do. And then, I think obviously if people wanted to reach out to you and they wanted to have a chat with you about how you guys could support them, what's the best way for someone to get in contact?
Yeah, so we have access on our website to book in a little bit of a strategy session and an intro call. And really what that looks like is we'll just have a chat about where you're at with your business and where you need some help with, and we'll provide some advice based on that of how we would go about it. And then we obviously give people the choice whether they want our help or whether they just want to take that and go back back into it. So that's probably our best way to get in contact, our website, or contacting us directly via email, and jumping on a call and having a bit of a chat about where you're at.
Yeah, awesome. We'll have a link in the show notes as well. So if anyone feels like they could use some help with what we've spoken about today, and a quick high-level summary, we've spoken about having structure, we've spoken about some type of meeting cadence, being able to leverage external support before burnout, before you're doing 60 hours a week. Well, you'll probably still be doing 60 hours a week, but you just have some help.
You have some help, and you can focus. If you're a hard worker, which usually you are if you're a senior manager or a business owner, putting your time to stuff that's going to grow your business, or having some time to do your own personal development instead of running through old data and trying to fill in the gaps so that you can use your reports. Spending time on operational stuff that could have been done by someone else.
For sure. So if that does sound like you, and it sounds like you'll be able to benefit from it, which I think all of our listeners will, and any business owner, regardless of what stage they're at, will be able to benefit. We'll have a link to book a call with Paul, a Calendly link. I'm assuming he's got one.
Yes,
he does.
Yeah, as we established in our early days.
That's right. Have to have a Calendly link. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes, and then feel free to book a call, jump on and pick Paul's brain and ask those questions. The first call, there's no obligation. Paul will give you a quick snapshot of your business, give you an overview and some suggestions, and then if you're comfortable, then you can take it from there and work with Paul, and he can sink his teeth into your business and try and make it run more efficiently.
Thank you so much for coming in today, Paul.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.